G'day. So we've got another used tool review. I've been working my way through my tool kits that I've been purchasing, or that I have purchased for my own personal workshop use or in use in the farm or whatever in the last few reviews. Another one that I wanted to review is not a full tool kit. This is a socket set. So you think, okay, well, socket set, that's great. And it's a Kincrome socket set, so I've kind of reviewed a Kincrome toolkit that should cover the socket set. But in this case, I wanted to review the Kincrome lock-on range of sockets. And the reason I wanted to do that is because they're my favorite sockets. They really are. If I was going to do a series on the most used bits of equipment in my workshop, and I may do that, this would be on that list, the most used bits of equipment in the workshop. I use sockets from all different manufacturers. This is my Jimmy Tools roll cab. I use the sockets in that for sure. But the sockets that I use the most would be my lock-on sockets. The first set of lock-on sockets that I ever purchased was this set right here. What is it? It's part number K2042. This isn't sold anymore. They've upgraded. It's not this particular model. This is based in an old tin case with a molded plastic tray. I believe they're all in Eva foam now, I think. This is a 40-piece half-inch drive socket set. This was purchased, I know when I purchased this. This was purchased in about 2009. I was working on building a couple of race cars, hill climb cars at the time, and helping my brother work on his car. Anyway, the reason I bought these sockets was I brought in a half cut of a car from Japan, and when it got here, got it out to the farm, started pulling it down, and evidently it had been exposed to sea air, or whether it was salt on the roads, whatever, but every single bolt, every single nut was just corroded. It was shocking. No amount of, lubrication, rust remover, or WD-40 was going to get rid of that rust. And it was just I was stripping bolt heads, I was stripping nuts. It was just a disaster, cutting them off with the angle grinder. And ultimately I got to the stage where I had to get the engine out, and one of the bolts that held the engine in was in a really tough spot, and I rounded the head off. And I was, frigging heck, I'm so sick of this. I tried to lubricate it, give a tap with the hammer, and then I rounded the head off, and I was lamenting this to my local Auto Pro. And the guy said, what type of sockets are you using? I said, I don't know, I'm just using my standard, Kincrome sockets. He said, well, why don't you use lock-on sockets? Lock-on sockets will take stuff that's nearly completely rounded and they'll be able to undo the nut. And they had the demonstration thing on the counter of the Auto Pro, and there's the rounded nut, and you can undo it with a lock-on socket. He said, look, I'm so confident that you'll be able to get that bolt out. If you buy a lock-on socket set and you can't get it out, you might snap the head off it, but if you can't get it out, bring it back and I'll refund you, but I reckon you'll get it. And I said, all right, no worries. So bought the socket, and it wasn't cheap. It wasn't a cheap set, and the lock-on sockets do have a premium over the standard Kincrome sockets. So I bought the socket set, went back out to the workshop, put it on the bolt, and out she came. No problems at all. Absolutely just flew out. And after that, my job was a lot easier, with the exception of I did snap some bolt heads off. I had plenty of grip on the bolt head. It was just the shank wasn't up to coming out as much as the bolt head was coming off. But largely, a lot of my problems of rounding the heads off vanished. They completely went away since I moved to this socket set. And I found that pretty much consistent for as long as I've had this kit. In fact, I had a friend of mine brought his Subaru out here the other day to do some work on it. I had to fix a couple of things and wanted me to give it a service for him. That's fine. When I got underneath it, whoever has been working on it previously, and he's had it full dealer serviced over the life of the vehicle, get underneath it, and the sump plug's completely rounded off. Oh no, great. So first thing I need to do, hopefully the lock-on socket will get this out, but she's pretty rounded. put the lock-on socket on it, no problems at all, came straight out, easy. And I replaced the sump plug for him so that he wouldn't have that problem again in the future, but came out no problems at all. So they're still performing for me. They still do really, really well, and I'm always surprised at what they'll actually remove. So especially when I come across, if I'm doing work on someone's car, or you know, if I'm going like with the Ram that I bought last year, you go through it, or the, you know, Land Cruiser or Hilux, whatever I'm working on in my own personal vehicles, all the vehicles that I own are used. It's not uncommon, it's not super common, but it's not uncommon to come across something in the car that someone's had a crack at before, rounded it off and gone, oh, bugger that. I remember there was, I got a Holden Rodeo farm ute, and just for the guys to drive around it during the year and at harvest time. And I was trying to take the harmonic balancer off and the nut on that. They'd obviously had a couple of goes at it to try and get it off, and whoever the previous owner's gone, ah, stuff it, can't get the bolt out, so just leave it there. And the lock-on socket's got it out. So they still perform very well for me. They don't always work. Sometimes, like if you strip a nut or a bolt with the lock-on socket, you're not getting that sucker out. You're going to have to cut it off. Like if you round it with the lock-on, it's all over Red Rover. You're not going to get it out then. So, you know, you want to be careful of that. But for the most part, I just love them. They really give me so little trouble. They're my sockets of choice. I've been working on the truck this weekend, and that's what I've used. My general thing is I will come up to the roll cab, unlock it, grab out the lock-on socket and go and do lock-on socket set and go and do whatever it is that I'm doing. That's my go-to set. In terms of how it's lasted, so it's got a bit of age to it now. You know, the tin's got a bit of surface rust on it. It's dented. It looks like it's been driven over. It really does. It's quite bent, but I mean, it's still, the hinge is still there and it still closes, but it's a fair way from how it was from factory. The ratchet, it broke. The switch on it snapped off. It's not a major problem, like it didn't chew the guts out of it, but the switch snapped off. I had that replaced under Kincrome warranty, and I snapped a 24mm socket. I had I've got a big 1/2-inch drive Kincrome breaker bar, and I was trying to get a spindle out of a 72-inch lawnmower deck, and I had my full weight on the breaker bar, and I cracked the side of the socket. I hadn't been on a rattle gun, cracked the side of the socket, took it in, went to Kincrome directly, said, look, I've cracked it, I'm happy for you to have a look at it. It definitely hasn't been on a rattle gun, but I have cracked it, and they've replaced it, so my 24mm lives on. It's still there, and I've got a full set of lock-on sockets. The 1/2-inch ratchet was replaced. The additional stuff you get with it, you get a 10-inch flex handle, you get a couple of extensions, you get 3 extensions, you get a 10-inch, 3-inch and a 5-inch. You also get a spark plug socket, and you get a universal joint, which I never use, but it's in there. The extensions all have the wobble at the end, so you can loosen off your socket and get a little bit of an angle on it, which I find very useful. You do need to be a little careful with that, but that's there. It goes in metric, goes from 8mm to 32 and 3/8 to 1.25 inches. That's probably fairly standard for a socket set like this. I think it's covered most things that I've wanted to do. I really like the socket set. I haven't seen that Kincrome make impact lock-on sockets. If they don't, because I haven't seen them, and I do take a bit of a cursory interest in Kincrome catalogues when they come through the mail. If you don't do that, Kincrome, you really should, because they're great sockets. I don't want to use these on a rattle gun, but it certainly wouldn't be the end of the worst thing in the world to have a lock-on socket that I can stick on a rattle gun. So said don't use them on a rattle gun, but it'd be nice to be able to do that. So if you don't make them Kincrome, you should make lock-on rattle gun sockets. Would I buy this set again? Yes, I would. It's one of the most used bits of equipment in my workshop. It is my socket set of choice for sure. Now, I've migrated for the most part to smaller sockets. Nowadays, since buying this thing and getting exposure for the first time to a 1/4 inch ratchet, this is the 1/4 inch ratchet and 1/4 inch sockets have been my sockets of choice. I find them really maneuverable, really handy to use, especially in engine bays and tight spaces. I really, really like 1/4 inch ratchet and 1/4 inch sockets. Obviously, for bigger sizes, you can't do that. And that's a big change for me because previously, everything I did was 1/2 inch. I never used 3/8. I always used 1/2 inch. That's just what I did. But since getting a 1/4 inch, my preference of ratchet would go 1/4 inch, 3/8, then 1/2. So would I buy this again? Yes, I would. In fact, I have, but I've just bought a set in 1/4 inch. So I've got access to lock-on sockets in 1/4 inch size for doing tighter stuff. Not that I seem to strip that smaller sizing, but I like the socket so much. If I get into trouble with something that's below 8mm, or I need access to even 8mm, but I need a smaller swing than what a 1/2 inch ratchet's going to give me, then it would certainly be beneficial to have the 1/4 inch set. So I've just bought that. Very, very pleased with that so far, but we'll see how that ages because that's only been a recent purchase. I've only just got that in the last few weeks, whereas this has been going on for over 10 years. So I feel a little bit more confident to make the recommendation on this. The part number for the lock-on socket set has changed. The ratchet has changed. It's Kincrome's new design. I haven't got any exposure to that. I don't particularly like the thickness and design of the new Kincrome ratchets, and I've kind of moved on from that. Like, I've got plenty of ratchets. I don't need to buy any more ratchets. I've got a new 1/4 inch ratchet with the new sets. That'll be my first exposure with the new design Kincrome ratchets, so we'll see how they go. But in terms of the socket design has been great. Kincrome have been always good to me in terms of honouring warranty, so I don't think you'd have any problems there if you ended up breaking something they've replaced. I've only had minor faults, but they have always replaced everything that has broken before, so I think you'd be okay in terms of them honouring the warranty. So if you need a good set of sockets, if you've got something that you're trying to get undone and you've rounded the socket, if you don't want to throw down the big bucks on a full comprehensive set, you can buy the sockets individually. So if you've rounded off a bolt head, get a lock-on socket, see if it'll undo it. I reckon it'll get it for you in most circumstances, unless the bolt is absolutely cactus. I reckon you'll get it out, and it might actually convince you that, you know, a lock-on socket set is where you want to go. Great design from Kincrome. I'm a huge advocate, as you can tell, and I hope this was useful. Thank you for watching.